All right, now working on the radiator supports and the radiator install. I got the new radiator that came in today, and I'm going to be putting it into that E30 to see how everything fits. I think I'm going to need to grind some stuff away, and I'm definitely going to need to add a couple of brackets on the bottom side and on the top to make sure that it's secured. So I want to open the box, I want to take a look at the radiator. It is not a Moshimoto, but it kind of looks like it. It's a knockoff, but it's a test fit, right? And we just want to see if using this radiator or this radiator style, it's a Z3M radiator. We want to see if it fits, how it fits, what issues we come across, and how we need to fix any inconsistencies that we do see with the design. So let's unbox it and let's see if it tests it. Okay guys, today we are going to be working on the cooling system for the E30 N54. As you can see, I have purchased an all aluminum E36 Z3M radiator. It's a bit of a thicker core. It's got regular beaded ends here, as opposed to the Dorman type clamps that you see on the existing stock E90 cooling. It's got existing locations for mounting, which we're going to be adapting to the E30. And we are going to basically install the radiator. We're going to plan for the routing of the old cooling pump, but it's a cooling pump. We're going to install it, and we're going to figure out what the routing is going to be for the lower radiator hose, the upper radiator hose, and of course the cooling reservoir, the E30 reservoir that we're going to also use, okay? And we're going to figure out where we want to put that reservoir. I have a pretty cool idea of where to put it. I do want to have somewhat of a shaved engine bay type look here for this, so that coolant reservoir location is going to be playing into that. And then we need to figure out how we're going to route it to the heater core. These are the two heater core tubes, very, very easily accessible, but we need to make sure that we're routing things so that it makes sense and we don't have air bubbles being trapped into the system. So that is what we are going to be doing today. So let's start off with radiator mounting. Look how this thing fits, huh? Very nice. It fits very nice as the N54 is sitting in its stock position. We need to come up with a couple of brackets up here, one here, and then one over here. As you can see, well, you can't see, it is sitting down there on the existing flange that comes from the E30, on both sides actually. So I want to reuse that with rubber mounting and grommeting on either side. So it's resting on that. And then these guys there's going to be a clamping device there and a clamping device right here. So this is going to be a very easy installation for the radiator. Let's take a look at the other side real quick. It just sits right on there. With these types of swaps, you gotta start somewhere. And I'm going to start with the radiator install. Once that's set, everything else needs to work around that. And if it absolutely can't, then I need to make a change to the radiator installation to accommodate that one other thing that it can't fix. So that's what I'm doing right now. And I got the grommets here. Let's take a look at those grommets and explore how those grommets are going to work on the E30 chassis. So here are my two grommets. These are actually grommets that I've used from the E92, and I've extracted them from the E92. It is like a radiator support grommet, basically sits on the top of the radiator. I'm actually going to be using them for the bottom. And as you can see here, this guy basically sits right in the nub of the radiator. This guy on this side also sits right in the nub, okay? And the idea here is that this is going to end up getting screwed directly to the body, the chassis, right here, okay? So this guy here is actually going to be sitting like that, just like that. It's actually going to be coming at an angle, but it's going to screw directly to that bracket, and this bracket on the other side as well. I know it's hard to see because of the light, but that's kind of the angle that we're going to be going here. Very, very easy installation. Let's do that right now. So here are my two grommets. These are actually grommets that I've used from the E92, and I've extracted them from the E92. It is like a radiator support grommet, basically sits on the top of the radiator. I'm actually going to be using them for the bottom. And as you can see here, this guy basically sits right in the nub of the radiator. This guy on this side also sits right in the nub, okay? And the idea here is that this is going to end up getting screwed directly to the body, the chassis, right here, okay? So this guy here is actually going to be sitting like that, just like that. It's actually going to be coming at an angle, but it's going to screw directly to that bracket and this bracket on the other side as well. I know it's hard to see because of the light, but that's kind of the angle that we're going to be going here. Very, very easy installation. Let's do that right now. All right, radiator mounting might actually be pretty easy. As you can see, moving it up and down, you can see the mount there, right? And you can see the little hole where the mount is going to. It's actually really, really close for me to put my rivet nut in there and have the bolt go right through there. I do need to make it more of an angle. Same thing on the other side. Take a look at that, huh? Look how close it is. Look how close it is. It's really close to this hole right here. So I'm going to basically cut this and angle it up a little bit, and then I'm going to put a rivet nut right inside of here, and that will really help to get these rubber mounts installed, and then that way I can install and remove the radiator with relative ease. And you can see the kind of clearance that I have here. I mean, it's actually not so bad. There is going to be stuff that's going to go in here, like the tube and all that stuff, but because it's going to actually go over. It's going to definitely limit my clearance for a fan here, but I got to do the best I can to try getting a fan in here one way or another. Whether I put a puller fan in here or actually a pusher fan that's pushing air through on the other side. I'm going to have tons of room here, but the back side might be a little bit tight, but it's really not that bad. Now, we drill for the rivet nuts. And now, to weld in some structural metal support for the lower brackets. Now, we install the rivet nuts. Now, rivet nuts are great because it allows for a one-way installation. You don't need some socket or wrench on the backside to hold some nut when you're... Nobody wants to hold some nut. But if you had to, it's better not to do that when you use a rivet nut because it's already basically clamped to the structure that you're bolting to. And here we have some inverted hex 4.5 or 5 millimeter. And the idea here is that the bolt goes right through the hole, and you just essentially screw it on. There are two washes on the inside of this rubber grommet, and as you clamp it down, you're basically clamping this whole washer, this rubber grommet assembly to the structure. So what we want to do is put that on, screw it down, and then the hole in the rubber grommet makes for a perfect insertion location for the radiator mounts, and it should just slide right in, and the lower should not move. It'll move up and down, but we're going to end up having a mounting structure on the top of the radiator core support in order to prevent the radiator from coming up. So that'll help it prevent it from moving in those degrees of freedom as well. So let's take a look, and in fact, I won't even cut. Let's just go and take a look right now. Hello. I don't know if you can see that. Nope. Maybe I should have cut. That's all right. So there we go, right? Take this guy, and we mount it just like that. I'm gonna start. Okay. No need to torque it up tight. Now the mount is basically clamped down to the structure, just like that, and the hole for the radiator support sits right in there. I'll do the other side, and then we'll slide the radiator in and see how it fits. Here we go. See? Sitting right in there. That's one. Here's the other one. See? Very nice. Very straight. And now we need to figure out how to get the coolant pump to route to that. That's going to be a challenge. That's going to be the next challenge. Once we figure that out, everything else should be relatively easy. And it should be easy because everything else is just 1-inch tubing. The larger radiator tubings for the upper and the lower radiator is really the most challenging thing. I'm going from the circlip type connector on the pump and the engine to a regular barb connection on the radiator. So it's going to be a bit of a challenge to get the right type of tubing that's necessary. And I think it's like 1.5 inch or 2-inch tubing for the upper and lower radiator tubes. But it is going to be a challenge, so I need to work through that and think smartly about how I want to route it. It's going to be as stock as possible, but it's going to have a bit of a custom twist. That's the idea.
Yep.
So what we're going to do is we're going to take this stainless steel bracketry that I had lying around with the holes in it. I'm going to cut it in half and use one side for here, one side for here. Essentially, this is going to be a lap joint that's going to have the stainless steel right on the edge of this, and it's going to, the hole is going to go through the pin, and it's going to get drilled through the aluminum side of the radiator, which is also made for adhering. So we're going to drill through it, we're going to put the pin through the whole thing, and then we're going to sand it down, and it's going to be part of the structure that we'll end up painting later. Alright, now that I've finished drilling the holes and welding the brackets, again, I tack welded them, okay? I didn't fully weld them, and I need to make sure that everything fits before everything is installed. That's why I tack weld and not fully weld. It makes it a lot easier to remove something later. I got my plastic rivets, I got my holes drilled, and they're lined up. The radiator is installed exactly where I want it to be installed. Now it's a matter of putting them in and securing the radiator. Let's take a look. In and pin, in and pin. Now you can see the radiator is secured in all dimensions and directions. Now that we've got this done, now it's time to start working on our upper and lower radiator hoses, our coolant reservoir placement, and our heater hoses. Now the pump needs to be installed. When we install the pump,